The whisper caught on that fan's phone, I thought love would fight for me, was not part of any scripted WWE segment. It wasn't amplified by the arena speakers or picked up by commentary. It wasn't performed for pop or heat or cheers. It was a human being, stripped of armor, whispering into a void of confusion, heartbreak, and disbelief. And that whisper, barely audible yet deafening in meaning, would ripple far beyond the ropes of that ring. Because for all the crafted personas, for all the years Becky Lynch had carried the women's division, for all the fire she brought as the man, in that moment, she wasn't a character. She was a woman who thought her partner, the man she stood beside through battles and beyond, would believe in her, would fight for her, would know her heart before questioning it. But instead of reassurance, she was met with silence and suspicion. That fracture, now emotional, had left deeper wounds than any physical injury ever could. Back in Florida, Seth Rollins sat in silence that same night, rewatching an old match from the early days of their relationship, one where Becky had run to the ring to help him after a brutal beatdown. He watched the moment on repeat, her diving into danger without hesitation, her eyes frantic, her arms wrapped protectively around him. And for the first time in weeks, he cried, not because of what she did or didn't do, not because of the paternity test or the hospital room echoing with his own doubt, but because of how far they drifted from the two people in that video. They had once been each other's anchor. Now they were each other's storm. And while the WWE machine continued to churn forward, SummerSlam posters replaced weekly, creative rewrites pushed out, championship belts shined and ready, the real tension wasn't on camera. It was in the silence of locker rooms, in the quiet stares exchanged by those who dared ask, "Have you heard from him?" Or, "Did she say anything today?" Wrestlers who had once shared inside jokes with a couple now walked past Becky in corridors and barely made eye contact, unsure of how to hold their loyalty. Seth's closest friends, like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, grew increasingly protective, shielding him from conversations, from headlines, from himself. One producer noted that Seth stopped answering texts. Not just from WWE, but from friends. The silence wasn't cold, it was scared. And then came another twist, one not seen by fans, but whispered about by insiders. Becky reportedly requested a temporary leave from post-SummerSlam events, not out of protest, but to go home. But home isn't easy to define anymore. Is it the house she and Seth shared? Is it her parents' place in Ireland? Or is home now wherever her daughter sleeps peacefully at night, unaware of the headlines clawing at her parents' image? In private, Becky has reportedly written pages of unsent messages, some to Seth, some to herself. Words filled with pain, confusion, moments where she blamed herself for not speaking up quicker, for not anticipating his fears, for not holding his hand tighter that day in the hospital. But also pages filled with anger, with disappointment. Because for all their love, for all the loyalty she gave, he still questioned her. WWE executives now walk a tightrope. Creative teams have backup plans on standby. PR staff monitor social media more closely than ever. The legal department has quietly flagged any storyline that could be interpreted as mirroring Seth and Becky's real-life split, wary of public backlash. Triple H, who had hoped to build the next year's WrestleMania around a potential dream return of Seth Rollins, is reportedly heartbroken. He's been in contact with both stars, encouraging them to do what's best for themselves, not the brand. But even he has stopped pressing. Meanwhile, fan theories evolve. Some cling to hope that this is all a work, that somehow, like in the best wrestling stories, it's a setup for the ultimate redemption arc. But those closer to the situation insist it's not. This is heartbreak unscripted. A love story torn at the seams not by betrayal, but by fear. Fear of timing. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of not being enough in the moment that mattered most. And perhaps that's the deepest tragedy, not that something terrible happened, but that something beautiful broke under pressure. In quiet moments, when Becky walks out for a match and the lights hit her face, there's a new expression, one fans haven't seen before. It's not defiance. It's not vengeance. It's loss. And in those moments, fans who used to chant her name with roaring confidence now do so with a kind of softness, unsure of whether they're cheering for a character or comforting a human being. And Seth? He hasn't returned to the ring, but sources say he hasn't ruled it out either. What he's ruled out, it seems, is pretending. If he does return, it won't be with a character drenched in theatrics. It'll be a man stripped to the bone, someone who has known pain, love, doubt, and loss all at once. And so we're left with a story that refuses to end. Because the paternity test gave one answer, but the question of healing, of trust, of redemption remains unanswered. Maybe one day, their daughter will look back and ask them what happened. And maybe by then, they'll have the courage to answer. Until then, we remain in the echo of a love story not yet finished, still unfolding in whispers, silences, and unsent letters. A story that reminds us that even our strongest heroes sometimes fall, not in the ring, but in the space between belief and fear. And in that space, the real battles are fought.